All right, we talked about African qualifiers, but there's also some UEFA qualifiers coming up. England will be playing against Serbia. Now, England have already qualified for the World Cup next year, but Thomas Tuchel was recently on TalkSport, and he had this to say. At the moment, if we keep the structure, Foden, Bellingham, and Harry Kane cannot play together. They can, but not in the structure. Not for the balance that we developed, and not for the structure that comes also with wingers who are specialists in their positions. We will always do what's best for balance, and we will try to keep the clarity, even if it means that we have to take tough decisions. Don, what do you make of what Thomas Tuchel had to say?
I love the word structure. I mean, he kept getting structure in about 3 or 4 times. To be fair, I'm torn a little bit, to be honest, because I get what he's saying. When England had that problem with Frank Lampard and Paul Scholes and Steven Gerrard, all trying to be shoehorned into an 11, the structure then was gone because they're trying to get world-class players just to try and somehow gel in different positions. So I get where he's coming from, and he's getting, you know, I get it where he's coming from, the team ethic and the structure point of view, and turning England into a team that'll win, not just look good on paper. At the same time, Thomas Tuchel's a clever man. He knows what he's doing. The interviewer teed him up there for the question to say, no, they can't. Now it is world headlines because we're talking about it. Everyone across the world are going to be talking about it. Surely he just could have hit that with a straight bat and went, no, these are good players. I'll figure it out, who's in form and what I see, come closer to the World Cup. I'll decide on my 11. I just thought it was a bit of a naive answer that he gave. I think he just left it wide open for everyone to try and have the conversation when it didn't really need it to be. Just straight bat that one off.
I love that. Don using cricket references. That's my boy.
Yeah.
Real men play cricket. But anyway.
A couple of things. I can guarantee you, El Universal, the newspaper in Caracas, does not have this as a headline. And they don't have a headline for cricket either. And back home in Venezuela.
When you hit it with a straight bat, that just means you go on the defensive a bit. You just block it. Don't open it up.
I understood.
Oh, Alan knows his cricket. Love that.
Knows his cricket. Limited knowledge. All I would suggest is that where I disagree with Thomas Tuchel is that I actually think that they can play together. Jude Bellingham can play as a number 8, which is, I think, his better position rather than sort of underneath the striker. Phil Foden can play underneath the striker, and Harry Kane can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to do it with the structure and balance and clarity, you can still do it. You're just choosing not to. You have your reasons as to why you don't want to do it. Balance and clarity. Right. But Bellingham can be a box-to-box midfielder. I think that's where he does his best work. I don't think of Jude Bellingham as a guy who's a playmaking midfielder that just sits underneath the striker and everything goes through him to create in the attack. I think he has to have the freedom to appear inside the 18-yard box, to make runs late inside the 18-yard box, but not a guy who is a playmaker per se. So he can play as an 8, Foden as a 10, and then you can have Kane as a striker. It can happen. He chooses not to because structure, clarity.
Jules, it's funny because Gareth Southgate got criticized for similar things as well, for having probably one of the best generations of England players and just not all playing them at once. And we do understand that each manager has their ways, their tactics, their methods, their structure, if you will. But do you see what Ale is saying, that there is a possibility that all 3 could actually play?
No, I disagree with Ali. Sorry, I just think that if you want to play them in the best position, which Gareth Southgate tried, I don't think it works. Bellingham wants to play as a 10 for England. This is for Phil Foden's best position. That's why the line on the wingers is interesting for what Tuchel was saying, that they have wingers who are specialists in there. So he doesn't want to play Foden wide, for example. He wants the wide players to be proper wide players, like the Sakas and Gordons, for example, or Rashfords. He doesn't want to move Foden out wide like Southgate has done many times in the past. So if Foden is a 10 and Bellingham is a 10, and as we know, Kane plays as a 9, but also as a 10, then it doesn't work if you want to play them 3 together. And that's why I really believe none of them will start together. They might, at some point in a game, somebody might come on because they're chasing a game or something. But I think it's pretty clear that he wants a very defensive midfielder in the double pivot, which looks right now to be Elliot Anderson. Declan Rice is obviously the main player for him in that midfield. So then it leaves you the 10. So the 10 could be either Palmer, either Foden, Bellingham or Rodgers. It'd be one of the 4 behind Kane. And I was told that Rodgers, certainly in Tuchel's size, is the guy that complements Harry Kane the most. So I don't know where that leaves Palmer when he's back from injury, Foden or Bellingham. But I think it'll be very interesting to see what Tuchel does with that number 10 position in the next 2 games for sure, in March for the last international break before the World Cup, and then more importantly at the World Cup.
I don't care where Jude Bellingham thinks he wants to play. That he may think of himself as a number 10. He's not. He's not a number 10. And so it's the job of a manager to tell him, no, not for me. You're not the number 10. Even if you want to play that position, you're not it. He doesn't play as a number 10 for Real Madrid. He didn't play as a number 10 for Borussia Dortmund. Now, just because he chooses to be, hey, I'm the number 10. Well, look, I could be a center back if you want me to. It's not how it works. His skill set is not that of a number 10.
But there's no room for him at number 8. So where do you play him then?
Well,
there's no room for him. And number 8 is Declan Rice.
Okay,
that's his position.
Okay, fine. I'm not arguing that, Jules. All I'm saying is that if we're just going to allow players to say, I want to play where I want to play, that's the job of the manager. You cannot. I don't think we can have a conversation here, Jules, that you actually think Jude Bellingham is a number 10, and his skill set match that of a number 10. I don't see it. I don't see that as his best position. He may think that that's his best position, but I don't think that that's the case.
No, I agree with you. I don't think that's his. This is the position that he wants to play in, and that's his best position. But if you take away the number 10 option for Jude Bellingham, the 6 and an 8 are taken already. He's not a 6. Declan Rice is the 8 in that team. That's never going to change unless there's an injury. So really, for Bellingham to start for England, it can only be behind Kane. This is the only position, and that's why I think this is very interesting for Tuchel to explain. Hang on a minute. People can't get carried away too much. We've got Kane, we've got that structure that he uses a lot around him, and then there's those positions that we have to fill. And, if Foden and Bellingham both want to play in that position, or if Tuchel sees them for that number 10 position, both of them obviously can play there. Same for Cole Palmer.
Don, I saw you nodding there when Jules and Ale were talking about Jude Bellingham's position. Were you in agreement or disagreement with Jules or Ale?
I think there's a lot to be said, and I think therein lies the problem with Jude Bellingham and his style. Because I think you look at the size of him, you look at the presence, you look at the athlete, and then you probably lend your eyes to say, well, he's a number 8, but he's not as disciplined as Declan Rice. He's not as disciplined as Elliot Anderson. He's not as good as those two in that position. Don't get me wrong, fantastic player, but a skill set of a number 8 means you've got to be all over that pitch. Now he can, but you'd be taking a lot away from Jude Bellingham's game if you ask him to be a defensive number 8, box to box, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So then you think, right, can he play number 10? Well, the athlete in a number 10, like Jude Bellingham, is, can you run in behind Harry Kane when he's coming short? The answer to that is yes. But Thomas Tuchel might think Phil Foden's technically a better number 10 who can get in the pocket and get on the half turn and take it on the back foot. So therein lies the problem for Jude Bellingham. What are you as a player? What are you best at? You can do everything really, really well, but what's your world-class position if you had to nail it? And I think therein lies the problem for him. In my humble opinion, it's difficult to try and get him into this side unless you have a real idea exactly where you're going to play him, whether it's being 8, back and forth, but you are going to lose a lot, or you say, right, I don't want the technical number 10, even though you can handle the ball, Jude. Don't get, try and bear with what I'm saying. Phil Foden on the half turn's a better footballer, but you can still be an effective number 10 if Kane's coming short. Then you use your legs to try and get him behind. So difficult for Tuchel to try and get him in the 11.
All right, well, like I said, England have already qualified for the World Cup next year, but believe it or not, there are still some countries.
So you're telling me that conversation was pointless, is what you're telling me?
No, that wasn't, because we'll be going long.
All right.
Well, look at this in Group D. France have yet to officially qualify. They play Ukraine, and they, of course, have a chance to clinch. I'm sure Jules is terribly nervous about that. Portugal are also in action. They will be going up against the Republic of Ireland, and they too can clinch their spot next year. And Norway plays Estonia in a massive one, as our Jan Aga Fjørtoft told us yesterday, because a win could see them clinch because of a better goal difference ahead of Italy. All right, Jules, so still a lot to play for over in Europe. Tell us what to look out for.
Well, you mentioned, Alexis, the France group. They need a point against Ukraine at the Parc des Princes on Thursday night, so tomorrow night, and that would be enough for them to qualify. And even if that doesn't happen, there's still another game after that. So let's be optimistic that the fact that the French can qualify. For Portugal, it's a bit the same. Hungary and Szoboszlai are chasing behind, but that should be okay for Roberto Martinez and Cristiano Ronaldo. And then the big game really in this November international break will be the Italy-Norway game, because Italy lost heavily in Norway. They were behind in goal difference, so they need an absolute miracle, which is almost impossible. They need I think a 9 or 10 goal swing. So they're not going to qualify. But if at least there could be Holland and Norway in Italy in the second game of November, then I think going into the playoff that will arrive in March to go to the World Cup, they can't miss a third World Cup in a row, obviously. That would give them a massive boost. And Rino Gattuso, who started quite well on the bench for Italy, will give him a boost as well to go into this playoff where Italy will be seeded. So should have an opponent that, to be fair, they should be favourite against. So massive game. Even if Italy, really, it's impossible for them to qualify directly for the World Cup, that game against Norway will be very important for them.